Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode of Bubbly Wubbly Nostalgia. Of course, I am Razorblade Mango. And today, although I have done a video on this game before, today I want to talk about, since it's now over 10 years old, I had meant to do a 10-year anniversary video on it, and like an idiot, I completely forgot. So in a way, this is to make up for my mistake of not doing it on the day of release. So, and the game I want to talk about today is Radiata Stories, which is a game made by Tri-Ace, who of course are known for Star Ocean, Valkyrie Profile, and published by Square Enix. Now, when people ask me what is my favorite game of all time, I used to say this game. I used to say Radiata Stories. These days, I don't exactly have a favorite game of all time. I don't like to choose anymore. But if someone were to ask me and begged me for an answer, there's a good maybe 35-40% chance I would say, well, depending on my mood during the day, I would say Radiata Stories. Because I love this game. I love this game with all my heart. It taught me a lot of things about the artistry of video games. And although I had been playing games for about maybe 10, 11 years prior to getting my hands on Radiata Stories, this was the first one that really opened my eyes to the concept of video games being serious art. You know, and of course, I played fantastic games I still adore to this day during the 10 years before I played Radiata Stories. But this was the one that unlocked that idea in my head that, wow, video games hold so much potential to be this magnificent force of nature, similar to film and television and books and paintings. And I remember when I picked it up, and I still have the issue somewhere, and I know I did it, forgive me if you've heard all this before, but I have to talk about it. I love talking about this game, because barely anybody knows about it. That's the shitty part. Barely anybody knows about this game. It has been buried under the big names like Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, which again is an unknock at Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, but I feel like, and Star Ocean as well, but I feel like this game deserved a sequel, or at least these days deserves some kind of remake or HD remastering, something to bring it back into the mainstream. Or a lot of people now that are into JRPGs, now that Square Enix is so focused on JRPGs now, and they're trying to appease that audience again these days, we need a game like Radiata Stories. We need Radiata Stories. We need a sequel. And I know Tri-Ace is doing their own thing with Star Ocean, which I'm looking forward to. I want Radiata Stories. I really, really want it. So, the story behind how I got this game is when I was in middle school, my cousin used to take me to GameStop all the time. Say, like, if I had a bad day, or I did really well on a test, he would take me over to GameStop and tell me, hey, as long as it's not rated M, pick whatever you want. And I remember hearing about this game a long time ago, back in Game Informer, like when I was first starting to get Game Informer, and I saw an article about this game in the preview section, and the first thing that caught my attention was the art style, because it looked like a storybook painting, like a classic, like kind of like a Brothers Grimm kind of book, where the artistry was so wonderful, and it took my breath away looking at it, and I didn't even know what the story was about, I didn't know who these people were, but I wanted this game, just from the look of it. And to this day, even with all of the amazing graphics that I've seen so far, this game still has is like in my top 5 as far as art design goes and visuals, and it still just has this unique style that I don't think has been replicated to this day as well as Radiata Stories does it. And when we went to GameStop, the very first thing I saw, and I didn't even know the game was out yet, I saw it and I went, oh my god, there it is. So my cousin was like, you got it. Just picked it up, went home. Unfortunately, it was a weekday, so I couldn't play it because there was a rule in my house where it was like, no video games until the weekend during middle school and high school. So, excuse me guys, I'm still sick, but forgive the coughing. But I remember I'd gotten it on a Wednesday, but still, Friday, and then I waited a whole day, and then Friday morning, my curiosity got the better of me, or I think my mom was out of the house for that morning for a little bit. I opened the game up, popped it in, and saw the opening cutscenes, like right up to, I think, like the first battle, and I was blown away by what I saw. I had never seen anything like this. How beautiful it looked on the PlayStation 2. Just the way, and yeah, it has this weird way the characters move, where it's not the most realistic thing in the world, but who fucking cares? It looked beautiful. It was, and I made this comparison before, it's the storybook come to life. And I felt like I had literally just been transported into an anime, or a book. And it really just opened my eyes. I could not wait to get home from school so I could actually play it without having to be like, hey, you got homework to do. And then when I finally played it, I just dove in, and I spent that whole weekend going through Radiata Stories. I didn't manage to beat it, because it's a pretty tricky game. If you don't know, because a lot of the events in the game focus on time. Now, this is one of the things I was introduced before. Yes, I'd played games before that point that had their own day and night cycles, but this is one of those ones that not only was I seeing it visually on the screen, a lot of the events of the story were actually triggered by what time it was. Say if you had to trigger some event that could only happen during the daytime, unless you had the strategy guide, you would have to go over, which I did, but I tried to not use it as much as possible, because I was like, oh my god, I love, and my cousin was like, here's the strategy guide, go for it. And I still to this day don't like using strategy guides, but Radiata Stories is one of them that I was like, holy shit, what do I do? Because a lot of it was really tricky in order to trigger certain events to happen. So yeah, I did cheat a little bit, but whatever. I was like, what? I was like 12 when it came out? Yeah, I was like 12. So, I didn't know any better back then. So, I just immersed myself in this world. To this day, I love the characters. It has one of my all-time favorite cast of characters. I love the story. I love the animation. I love the music. It's like in my top 3 favorite soundtracks of all time. I love the boss battles. I love the combat system. Now, a lot of people have complained that this game is super linear, and it is. It's not an open world. You only go on a set path, and you can't really go out and explore the backgrounds, which are beautiful and amazingly rendered. But honestly, I didn't care. I was just like, that doesn't bother me. I understand the criticism, but it doesn't bother me. And I mean, this is, and I've gone on for almost 10 minutes now. But to wrap it up, I'm going to tell you guys the moment that I fell in love with this game fully. The moment that finally unlocked that idea in my head that, wow, the games can be more than pastimes. And I started taking video games very seriously from that day forward. So, there's a mission early on where you have to visit this dwarf city called Earth Valley, and it's order to pick up a supply of weapons and take it back to the main kingdom. And it really didn't have anything to do with the mission, because the mission starts off at night, and you have to walk to the city. And during the time you walk to the city, it turns into sunrise. But there was this moment where I was walking across this bridge in the game, and I saw that it was almost sunrise. So I stopped, and I looked at the background. And I remember doing this to this day. I looked at the background, and I looked at the clock in the game, and I waited until it finally hit the time for the sun to rise, and I just watched as the game dynamically changed from pitch black darkness to this beautiful sunrise, and I literally could see the sun rising in the background until it just turned like this beautiful, absolutely stunning orange and red sky with clouds, and then the sun got higher and higher, and eventually just turned into bright blue sky with this big yellow sun. And it hit me like a fucking truck, because and this seems like such a small moment, and I know so many other games have done day and night cycles like this, and I'd even played games that have done day and night cycles, but I had never experienced something like this. I mean, to me, it was pure magic. And I very rarely ever get those moments anymore, where I am just completely taken aback by how simplistic something can be. A lot of games these days want to wow you by going so over the top with explosions and their like particle effects and just this loud action. It's like wow, look at how cool the environment looks, and look at all the little attention to detail you got here. And while that is impressive within itself, to me it does not outdo how I felt seeing the sun rise in Radiata Stories. Because to me, that is the moment I fell in love with video games. My relationship with video games went to a completely different level from that day forward. And I'm telling you, without Radiata Stories and my love for Japanese RPGs, because I had played a lot of JRPGs before Radiata Stories, and I liked quite a bit of them. This is the one that made me fall in love with the genre, that made me want to go out and actively seek more, because from that point on, I think during the whole year of 2006, I actively went out of my way to look up JRPGs that were coming out for the PlayStation 2, and I would snatch up each and every one of them, including Kingdom Hearts 2, which is in the running for Radiata Stories. There are two games that are like my go-tos for if someone were to ask me my favorite game of all time. There's Radiata Stories, and there's Kingdom Hearts 2. And I'll do a video about Kingdom Hearts 2 one of these days, because I have a really cool story to go with that. But yeah, I'm running out of time. But yeah, I just love this game. I love Radiata Stories. I cannot recommend it enough, especially if you have a PlayStation 2. I'm praying for the day Square Enix and Tri-Ace go onto their backlog of games and are kind of like, hey, which ones should we remaster in HD? Or hey, which ones should get a sequel? Because I'm telling you, if I was ever like a multi-billionaire or something, I would beg Square Enix. I don't care how much it would cost. I would buy the rights for Radiata Stories from Tri-Ace and Square Enix. I would get a team together of like the finest animators, the finest musicians, the finest voice actors, and I would make a sequel to this. Hell, I've written fan fiction that's a sequel to this. I once wrote a script for a movie, a trilogy of movies based on this game. I would. If I would do everything for this game. I would have it be an anime. I would have it be movies. I would have it be a book. I would have it be played at orchestras all over the world. I love this game with all of my heart and soul. This game taught me so much about entertainment, not just video games, but entertainment as a whole. And without this game, I probably would not be as into video games and movie and just in art, just in media and art as I am today without Radiata Stories. That is how crucial Radiata Stories is to my development as a human being. This game feels like a permanent part of my soul. And if you guys have PlayStation 2s out there and you can find the game, I think it's on Amazon for a decent price, buy it. Buy it. Play it. Immerse yourself in it like I did. You will not regret it. Because I adore this game. And if you don't want to play it, I think there might still be the cutscenes on YouTube. Go watch those. Because, I mean, if you don't want to play the game, if you don't have time to do it, at least watch the cutscenes. At least buy the soundtrack. Contribute money to this game. To this 10-year-old game that barely anybody knows about. Sadly, that barely anybody knows about. So yeah, for the final time, I love Radiata Stories. I love it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see, subscribe. Let me know if you have played this game, or if you want to, you have any interest in it. I hope I've encouraged you guys to go out and buy it, because that would make my day if someone were to come up to me and be like, "Hey, it's happened before," and I feel really good about it. When someone's like, "Hey, you remember that game Radiata Stories you told me about? Well, I bought it and I completely loved it. Thank you for introducing me to that." I mean, there are very few things in the world that warm my heart, like someone telling me that. Because Radiata Stories, like I said, is so underappreciated. Probably the most underappreciated game ever, in my opinion. Oh my goodness, I've almost got 20 minutes. Alright. So thank you guys for watching. Have a good one.